Jim Knowles is leaving Ohio State after helping. He's pretty responsible for the national title. Had a lot of talent. He's going to have a bunch of talent at Penn State. Not going to help the Ohio State rebuild, reload, whatever you want to call it, efforts. But I said on our Top 25 episode, it feels to me like Penn State is an obvious pick as a preseason number one, even though I don't know that I trust them once the games start. And this only helps that a bunch of returning talent there. I sort of get it. 3 years, $3.1 million. He'll be the highest paid assistant coach in the country. He's had an interesting career arc. He was Cornell's head coach, was a defensive coordinator under David Cutcliffe for a long time at Duke, made the leap to Oklahoma State under Mike Gundy, and then to Ohio State, and now to Penn State, which in a lot of situations might seem like a step down slightly. I think this is sort of a step up considering what they bring back. Chris, what is your takeaway from this move, which I understand it. I did not understand the Oklahoma buzz. Penn State, I get.
Yeah, so Jim Knowles, by the way, the defensive coordinator, who has done a good job there at Ohio State. He was in the mix for Oklahoma. He was in the mix for Penn State. He was in the mix to stay at Ohio State. Notre Dame may or may not have been in the mix as well because they lost defensive coordinator Al Golden to the Cincinnati Bengals. And full disclosure here, Jim Knowles' agent is my former boss at Coaching Search. But the agent never talks to me about his guys. He'll never give me anything on that. So just full disclosure there, I'm not getting anything on that. Our Audrey Snyder, our fantastic Penn State reporter, has confirmed all of that news. The $3.1 million per year average. And we'll start there. I mean, that is a raise of basically $1 million a year. He is now the first $3 million coordinator, which blows my mind. That is like, especially at a time when we're paying players too. And I think that's my biggest takeaway here first from the Penn State side of things, which is they're really investing here to keep Katron Allen and Nick Singleton and DDS and Drew Aller and bring in a $3 million coordinator. It again feels like Penn State's trying to pull a Michigan, pull an Ohio State. Use your money to keep as much as you can and bring the pieces you need in from the outside. Knowles replaces Tom Allen, who took the DC job at Clemson. So I think it's a huge hire for Penn State. He's done a really good job pretty much everywhere he's been a Broyles Award nominee a few times. So big get for Penn State.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see if they add anybody in the portal. They did add Kyron Hudson. That's kind of the biggest piece they added, the receiver from USC. I like him a lot. Probably going to need one or two more. Again, no Tyler Warren coming back as well. We'll have to fix that. But Dame, how does Penn State as preseason number one sit with you?
I mean, it makes sense, and I understand why, but I go back to what you say. Once they actually start playing games, I don't know if I'm going to keep my stock or, buy more stock for Penn State to be the number one team, because we've seen in these big moments, regardless of who the coach is, regardless of the players that they have, they just haven't been able to get it done. So I'll be interested to see once they actually start playing games, if they look like a number one team once the season starts. I mean, obviously you bring in a new coordinator like Jim Knowles, that's supposed to make everything better, but Penn State already had a really good defense. Like, they could rush the passer. They were tough against the run. They played good in coverage in the secondary. So I'm really interested to see how much better he can make that Penn State defense. But again, I don't think improving their defense and in what small capacity I think they can improve from last year to this coming year. I don't think it'll make that big of a difference. And I don't think it'll be enough to get Penn State over that hump that they've been stuck at for so long.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the big thing with the James Franklin, 1-15 or 1-17, whatever, is against top 5 opponents. They've been up against like a pretty big talent disadvantage in a lot of those games. That's the only thing I'll say is sort of like a excuse for that. Now I think they can be close to even, if not better. I think they'll definitely be a better roster than Michigan. Ohio State, will kind of see where things land with them in the portal and how guys look in the spring and kind of figuring that out. It does help that they'll have the best player in the country next year. But Penn State's really interesting. They're going to come in with pressure and expectation that I don't think we've seen from them in quite some time. There's talk about, if we can split the big ones or if we can just get in the playoff. Now it's like, if you don't get to the national championship game or even the Final Four, like, there's no coloring that season thing other than a failure. Whereas this year you get to the Final Four and you feel really good about where you were at. So they're an interesting team to me. I'm fascinated by them next year.
Some more here. Remember, Jim Knowles shut down Penn State's offense earlier this year when those two teams met. And he's done a really good job really every time they've matched up. And this will be 3 defensive coordinators in 3 years, because Manny Diaz was the one 2 years ago, and now he's the head coach at Duke. So Penn State has been rotating guys there. But the job Jim Knowles did, I mean, we kind of forget, but Ohio State's defense was not good. Remember that 2020 national championship game when they got destroyed by Alabama and Devontae Smith?
The second half of them is the Michigan game in 21.
Yeah, it was rough, and Knowles came in and really fixed that group. It certainly helped to have a lot of NFL players stick around this year, but really good coach. And the defensive coordinator carousel now is really going to be spinning. The head coaching carousel has stopped for now. It could have some G5 movement later on if somebody moves to take another job. But Notre Dame needs a defense coordinator. Ohio State needs a defensive coordinator. Michigan might need a defensive coordinator if Wink Martindale goes to the NFL, as he's getting some interest. Ohio State also has to work on Chip Kelly, who is reportedly getting some NFL interest to potentially go there to be a coordinator. So more changes coming for Ohio State on the staff, and I think you're going to see a lot of big-time coordinator movement now. We've reached that stage of the coaching cycle, which sometimes can snare a lower-level head coach or two who takes an assistant job. So keep an eye on that, because the assistant coaching carousel is very much moving.
Yeah, congratulations to all the defensive coordinators who are about to get paid out there.